Hello and welcome to the third in our series of podcasts for WEG UK. I'm joined today by Fernando Veloso, who is the Application Engineer for Digital Solutions at WEG. Welcome, Fernando.
Thanks, Andrew.
So to start off with, could you share a bit about your background and what drew you into the world of digital services for the industrial sector?
Yes, sure. I think that my professional journey starts at my last year in university. So I have a degree in mechatronics engineer from the University of São Paulo in Brazil. And during the last year, I started off a company, so it's startup, as they say. Me and another colleague, we built up from the ground up. And well, long story short, we developed this computer vision based system for quality control in production lines. So basically a camera.
You did that as part of your degree course, did you? So part of your dissertation, was it?
Yeah, in a sense, had some elements of it. And,
okay.
And basically it's a camera that looks at production lines and says if there's an issue, a visual issue. So eventually WEG got interested in that solution and they bought the company. I was then responsible for the integration within the recently founded WEG digital business unit. And after that, the opportunity came for me to move to the UK, to the UK's branch. And here I am now, 3 years. And basically what I do here is I help to develop our condition monitoring portfolio from more of a technical perspective.
We hear terms like Industrial 4.0 and digital transformation all the time across industry. From your perspective, however, at WEG, what do these actually mean in a practical day-to-day sense for a factory floor?
Well, Andrew, I think that there is an illustrative way of looking at the concept of Industry 4.0, which is looking back to history. So if we look at the other industrial revolutions, I think it helps us to understand and position us where we are now at the Industry 4.0. So if you imagine that Industry 1.0, the first one, which was basically the invention of the steam engine, which actually happened here in the UK, built the body. So the machines were created. And then from the first time in history, we started to automating things from our own purpose. Then it came the second industrial revolution, which was all about electricity. So electricity was invented, and then we started to power up those machines with electricity. Then it came the third industrial revolution, which is basically automation. The computers were invented, and suddenly the machines now have memory. We can store things, we can process things. So the way I like to see it is that if the first industrial revolution was about the body, then the second one is about giving life to that body with movement. Then the third one is about giving a brain to that machine, which now has the computer. So in that analogy, the fourth industrial revolution is about transforming that machine in something that is intelligent, that has knowledge. There is a big debate in the industry if machines can be smart, intelligent, possess knowledge, things like that. And there is certainly, people don't agree on that, but I think that what this analogy shows us is that the Industry 4.0 is about how we can start to use the data generated by all those machines. How can we process it? How can you understand it? How can we actually extract something of value from this data? So in my opinion, in my idea, in my mind, Industry 4.0 or the digital revolution is about how we can use data, which is random information. How can we turn that into actual valuable information?
I find that fascinating explanation as to the industrial revolutions and the various phases. So thank you for that and being so eloquent. With all this data that digitalisation is allowing us, it has a big bearing on reliability, obviously. So in your role, what are the biggest pain points or challenges you see industrial operators facing today when it comes to keeping their equipment reliable?
Andrew, I would say that the biggest problem, or I don't want to phrase it as a problem, but the most serious concern that I have is about the mindset. So what I mean by that is that people tend to see maintenance as a cost. And this is not only a UK issue. I used to see the same thing back in Brazil. So maintenance is traditionally seen as a cost only. And when
you say cost, a burden, an additional financial burden?
Yes, not as a strategical pillar of your business. And when you do so, when you see something as a cost or as a burden, you tend to neglect it. You tend to act just when you need to. You tend to forget that whole department, sector, area is as vital as the production line itself, because when something goes wrong from a maintenance perspective, your production line stops. So what I say today is that we need to go through this all over again, and always when you're facing customers, to remind themselves that it's not about costs. That actually, when you have a reliable maintenance strategy, you actually are making more money out of what you got.
So now that you've very kindly demystified some of those big Industry 4.0 terms and references, I want to get into the practical side of things. So for a maintenance manager listening right now, moving toward a predictive model sounds great in theory, but is that not a very large jump? So most operators are familiar with preventative maintenance, but how do you explain the jump to predictive and condition-based models? Where is the real shift in mindset for them?
I think that the big jump is before that. I think that today what we see in the industry is that people actually do corrective maintenance, meaning that they act when something breaks down. So this is how it works. And then, in my opinion, the biggest jump when you go from 0 to 1 is when you have the cultural shift towards a proactive way of seeing maintenance and reliability as a general concept. So we have corrective maintenance, which is I'll do something when my machine breaks down. And then we have preventive maintenance, which would be the next step. This means that I'm going to do something in my production line from time to time. So I'm going to prevent a failure from happening, but I still don't have any kind of sensoring on that machine. I'll just do every 1,000 hours or every 1,000 cycles, doesn't matter.
So a regular sort of maintenance program, as it were.
Yes, and this would be the next step, I would say. Further down the line, something that is a little bit more sensory based, I would say, would be the condition based maintenance. This is what? This means that you're going to act when you have a sensory input saying that something is wrong with your production line. So condition based is about understanding the current condition of your machine and acting when a sensor, for instance, tells you that it is vibrating too much. The last step, and where everyone wants to be, but it's not quite clear how to get there, would be predictive maintenance, which is condition-based, so you have all the sensoring, all the stuff there, but then you try to predict when the breakdown will occur. So this is obviously more difficult, because how can you predict if a certain machine will break down? We have a different set of tools that help us in that direction, but at the end of the day, it's a statistical thing.
Collecting information over a period of time.
And then trying to predict for that particular machine how things are going to play out in the future.
I liked your expression, corrective maintenance. To be fair, I've not heard that before.
Yeah.
Obviously, predictive maintenance and understanding that people fix things when they go wrong. But that expression, corrective maintenance, I think is quite telling, really, because that's where a lot of industry is,
Yeah.
but they've got to take that step, haven't they? And on that point, when companies start this digitalisation journey, what are the most common misconceptions they have? Are there specific traps you find yourself helping them avoid?
I think that if I were to name one issue that I see all the time is people thinking that technology will do all the work for them, especially now, after and in this AI thing that we are. People tend to see, oh no, this is the product I'm buying. It's going to do everything for me. I don't need to do anything, so I'm okay. When in fact, when you put a condition monitoring system, what it will do for you is that it will generate data for you, but the action is still on you. You still need to see that alert and plan a scheduled stop moment on your production to perform that job.
Well, speaking specifically regarding condition monitoring, what can it realistically detect before a failure happens? And importantly, what are the limits of this prediction?
Well, condition monitoring is a broad term that has many concepts. Focusing on vibration analysis, I would say that we can very reliably predict and understand certain types of failure, such as misalignment, unbalance, lubrication issues, bearing issues such as outer race or inner race. Those are all things. And remember that we are talking about rotating equipment. So it can be a motor, but it can also be a fan or a compressor or a gearbox. Everything that spins ultimately has friction. And from time to time, we need to do something. It's like your car. You need to service, right?
Yeah.
So why wouldn't you do that with your machine? So we can very reliably measure those stuff and ultimately say that this machine has an imbalance problem. This is the technology can do that. Yeah. What the technology cannot do, is that it cannot act for you. That I think that's the main message. That's the most important mindset shift that we need to think of, is that how we can work alongside all these technological tools. Right?
So man and machine in harmony, as it were.
Man and machine.
Yeah.
Because technology itself doesn't do much alone, I think.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. So we've talked about the technical capabilities and the common traps, but eventually, as we've just said, someone has to sign off on the budget as well. Let's look at the business case and how these systems actually pay for themselves. So we live in an era of big data. Obviously, data drives everything these days, but more data isn't always better. How do you help clients collecting information? How do you help them balance the collecting of information and actually getting actionable insights that they can then use?
Yeah, I think you're quite right. More data is not necessarily a good thing, because at the end of the day, data is as good as what we can do with it. Data just for the sake of data is meaningless. And actually there is an expression is you can get data swamped. You have so much data around you that you don't even know what to do with it. So all this data is sitting there, idle, being generated, consuming energy, being stored somewhere. And what are you doing with that, right?
Do you think, just on that point, do you think that there are many organisations that are at that point? They've installed technology to collect this data, but they're not actually using that data correctly.
Oh yes. This is exactly my point, I think. The thing we see the most is a factory with a lot of sensors, because nowadays you have sensors everywhere, right? You have PLCs with sensing this, sensing that, humidity, vibration. You have temperature. You have position sensors, and all these machines are smart in a way that they generate loads of data. But rarely we see this data being used in a valuable way. And I think that you asked about how to get things moving, right? How to get from the the domain of data to the domain of action. And I think that the easiest way, in my opinion, is to start small. Start small and work on your culture from day zero. And what I mean by culture is you need to have a maintenance culture. You need to have a schedule. You need to have training. You need to have your team engaged. You need to have a champion. What is a champion? It's someone that is going to bear the responsibility for all that system. And then it pays itself. I think that when you do it in the proper way, maintenance stop being a cost and it becomes a strategical mode for you, I would say.
I think you may have gone somewhere in answering my next question, but I'll ask it anyway. Having seen many deployments, what do you think is the secret sauce that separates a highly successful condition monitoring setup from one that fails to gain traction?
Yeah, I think I'll go back to my last question and perhaps elaborate a little bit better. And when you see a large development, a large deployment of sensoring, sometimes the company doesn't have the chance to mature in its internal process on how to handle that data.
Yeah.
And then sometimes it's just a waste of time, of energy, and if you don't have this cultural shift towards a more favorable approach towards maintenance, you may just waste money and energy. I think that you need to have this understanding of maintenance as something valuable. Work on your culture, set up your KPIs, and then choose a champion, a team, and then start doing from the bottom up. Start with one system, 10, 100, and then you'll be able to measure the before and the after, and then you have real data to support your decisions. I want to install the system because of that.
I mean, there has to be a business case for any investment in any business, isn't there? So for decision makers listening, how do companies typically justify the investment? Is it purely about ROI, or are there other strategic wins involved, would you say?
Andrew, I think ROI is the biggest motivator for an industry to start off the process. Because if you pick a critical equipment, and by critical I mean one equipment that should not stop, must not stop, then if you have a problematic critical equipment, it's even easier to justify measuring and censoring that machine, right? If you have a machine that breaks down every couple months, and when it breaks down, you lose a lot of money, then the investment, if you put a few sensors, a few dozen sensors, it pays off really quickly. And I think this is the first step, and this is the most straightforward way to build up this business case. But the second thing that I think is worth mentioning is that a condition monitoring project can be the first step towards digitalization. It's an easy way for you to start off building that culture that I mentioned before. And then from that, you might get to a point where you're mature enough to look at other digital technologies. And then you suddenly have all these projects and people and all these things going on at your industry that deals with digitalization in different fronts. So I think ROI definitely, but also it's a chance to build this mindset.
So do you think it's in a similar position that the installation of motors, electric motors, efficient, high-efficient motors were some years ago when it was about cost of ownership? We've got to build a business case, a financial case for predictive maintenance to become more of a normal presence within industry.
Yeah, I think so. It's all about reducing the TCO, the total cost of ownership, and basically if you have that critical machine, and again, condition monitoring may not be for all machines. There are some machines that you don't need to bother about, but I'm sure that every industry has at least one critical machine that makes the case for condition monitoring system.
And do you think there's a long way to go, particularly in UK, from what you've seen in your travels representing WEG? There's still quite a lot to do in the transition to a predictive maintenance culture?
Yeah, I think that the predictive bit is a little bit tricky. I think that we still need more technology, and we still need to keep going and understanding where things will go. I mean, I think that maybe in 10, 15 years, predictive maintenance will be something that will be much more mature than it is now.
Well, this was actually my next question, looking at the next decade. So, 5, 10 years down the line, how do you see digital services evolving? Is there a next big thing on the horizon for industrial maintenance, or is it just getting the industry up to speed with what we've got available now?
I think that data will be increasingly available, and loads of different opportunities to treat that data will keep maturing. And for maintenance specifically, I think that we have a long way to evolve in the technology behind predictive maintenance, because, as I said, it's still a statistical model. We can predict things. The question is how well we can predict things for that particular scenario. So we have different approaches from technology point of view, but yeah, I think this will be the hot topic for the next 10 years.
It's a fascinating topic as well, isn't it, really?
So exciting times, huh?
Indeed it is. It is. Thank you so much for talking to me today. That's very insightful. I do appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening to our third podcast in the series for WEG UK. Should you require further information, please contact one of the team or visit the website. I look forward to seeing you on the next one.